7 p.m. or 1900 GMT. This is Point Blank on Eyewitness News. I am Umaru Sandamadu. Tonight on Point Blank, Kwabena Agyepong was doing football or sports commentary long before I came to Accra. I wanted to say long before I was born, but he says I shouldn't say that. People will think he's some grandpa. So I wouldn't say that. But recently, you remember him as the General Secretary of the NPP just before the elections in 2016, had some internal issues. We'll talk about that later when there's time. But tonight, we are talking about number 12. Honorable Kwabena Agyepong served in various roles under the Kufuor government. Is my guest on Point Blank. Yeah, welcome, sir.
Thank you very much.
Did you
call me simply Kwabena Agyepong?
I just say Kwabena Agyepong. I shouldn't add anything.
No.
Okay.
I'm simply Kwabena Agyepong.
Kwabena Agyepong. You can't be simply Kwabena Agyepong. You are now an engineer as well.
I've always been an engineer.
I'm an executive member of the engineering.
I'm the acting executive director of the Ghana Institution of Engineering.
You've been very busy.
Yes.
All right. Have you watched number 12?
Yes, I did last night. Yes.
Views.
Well, I was very saddened and struck, and I really didn't have a sound sleep last night because of the affection I've had for football and sports in general as a kid, and I see how far down we have sunk, and it really was hurting. I was really hurting inside, but taking it aside, I think this is something I have raised not too long ago. It has to do with the governance architecture of sports and the attempt by people to create a circle around football administration in this country and isolate it and make it seem as if it is not part of this country. The very name of it, Ghana Football Association, belongs to Ghana. It's part of corporate Ghana, and I think that we should not present football as some special sport. Yes, it is, because it has the biggest following with a lot of passion all around the world. But football essentially has stakeholders. The players, the clubs, right from juvenile level, and more importantly from juvenile level through to the premiership. And then the people of Ghana who support the game, the fan base of the who are represented by the government of the day, who are supposed to provide the resources to support the game. And if you cast your mind back to the days post-independence, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, our first president, knowing how passionate Ghanaians were about their football and sports in general, had one of his closest confidants, Ohinijang, to be in charge of our football. And if you go through that till even the 90s, there was always a collaboration between the government of the day and the sporting fraternity. There was a nexus, a sound relationship. And I quite recall, the likes of, if I remember some of the names that have strutted the office of the FA, the likes of Zach Bentum, who was managing director of BP Ghana, SK Menu, HP Nyamitei was the managing director of State Insurance, Lieutenant Colonel Brew Graves during the military era, Lawton Akayensu. Come later on to the likes of SK Menu, Nyamiche, Brew Butler, Alaji Jaula. There was a certain understanding and collaboration as we moved along, as the nation, the political history of the nation transformed from military dictatorships to civilian rule. Of course, there was a certain element of liberalization of sports management or sports administration in this country. But it always had a key to ensure that, one, people recognized that it belonged to the country as a whole, and that, two, that political authority had a responsibility to the country to ensure that those in charge of sports were also accountable.
So essentially your point is that
my point has been
government treated football like national security. It's something you can't tamper with. That's how seriously it was taken.
I wouldn't even say government. I'll bring you straight up to 2001 when the NPP took over power and President Kufuor, who I served for close to 6 years as press secretary, became president. He then nominated Coach Ben Kofi as the GFA chairman. I didn't think FIFA raised any issue. And then moved on and nominated Dr. Nyaho Tamaklo after the 4-year tenure of Coach Ben Kofi. There was never any issue. It was only after Dr. Nyaho Tamaklo resigned his position that this whole hula baloo, some carefully choreographed attempt to create a circle around sports administration and use FIFA as a cloak to protect, if that is the word to use, and prevent governments who are the repository of the mandate of the people and who are ultimately responsible to the people, accountable to the people every 4 years, to have any say and control as to who runs the FA all along the time. As we progressed through the 80s to the 90s, first it was government just used to appoint one person and nobody had a say. But of course, as the country changed into democratic rule, we realized that, look, let there be liberalization. So there was a Congress, and then the government will be allowed to nominate two football people. And most essentially, they were all, because the football administrators was like a family. I mean, some had CPP leanings, myself and others had the MPP leanings. There were many friends who also had NDC leanings. But when it came to sports and football in that matter, we all had the passion for the game and we all supported the growth of the game.
How did we lose the authority over football in this country? That was in 2006 you talked about.
That's right. That's where I'm heading to. And I quite recall that I was press secretary to the president in those days. And when Dr. Tamaklo resigned, some of us, me especially, was of the view that Dr. Kofi Amwa, who was a member of the FA board and who was also the chair of the local organizing committee of the 2008, should be appointed, should be given to Congress to endorse or otherwise. But before we could say Jack, certain arrangements, and people left Ghana, went to Zurich, and by the time they came back, a letter from FIFA says that government should no more interfere in sports. I mean, for the life of me, FIFA is just a federation of football associations. It's not law unto itself. In fact, FIFA itself is subject to the law of the land of where their headquarters is situated. And if you can recollect, the major problems that happened in FIFA started because of the work of the public prosecutor in Switzerland and those in America who were furious with the decision to give the hosting rights to Russia and Qatar, and who suspected some underhand dealings. So if FIFA in Switzerland, its headquarters, submit themselves to the laws of the land, how can we sit in Ghana and say that FA, whose headquarters is in Accra, it's always cloaked with some cover?
Independence and autonomy.
I think it's...
Who are these people?
I don't want to get into that, but what is important is I've been worried about this infrastructure. And in fact, during the time, there were people I called, and I'm sure a lot of them are alive. A few of them have called me recently. I said to you, the angle, the direction that you are taking, we are going to head for disaster in the future. It's taken perhaps 12 years or so to get there, but there was no need for this.
What was your counter proposal? In continuation of the status quo?
I believe that the continuation of the status quo. And about 2 weeks ago, I even granted an interview, which just came by the by because we were discussing the upcoming World Cup, and Pollard Mortuary on a sister station talked about what I felt contributed to Ghana not qualifying, and we talked, and then I straddled into this area, and surprisingly I saw daily graphic front banner story, although I didn't speak to graphic, I spoke to Metro TV. So basically I think that when you have something and it's not broken, don't fix it. That is the cardinal principle of engineering.
So the attempt to fix it caused the mess that we witnessed.
Of course. I mean, if you create a situation where there is no supervision, there is no accountability, especially in a game that was transforming so much, because we had 3 consecutive World Cups, and in today's commercialized state of football, there's a lot of money that comes into football, and if there is no structure to supervise the use of it. I sit here, I've had a team in Adabraka at the juvenile level, playing in the school just across your street here, since the 80s. And it's called Argentinos Juniors. I named it after Diego Maradona's first club. And some of the players, in fact, the goalkeeper of the Black Stars now, he plays in France. Lawrence Atizigi is one of my players.
I'll come to you, Kwabena Agyepong, and ask you how you think should we reverse to the old ways? Is that what you're thinking? I'll ask you that question. But of course, the thing you've been concerned about most is FIFA's seeming superpower nature over the FA, the local FA, and government's fear over the years to touch it. And the government indeed has issued a statement now, in which statement it's saying that it is, I'm not sure what exactly it means, whether the GFA has been dissolved or it will be dissolved. Let me speak to Herbert Crapper. He is government spokesperson on governance and legal affairs. You're welcome to Point Blank, sir. Quickly, what has government done with GFA in summary?
What government has done is to begin the processes to see that the GFA will be dissolved. We know that the GFA is a company limited by guarantee, and therefore its dissolution has to be in accordance with the law, and therefore the government has triggered that process to ensure that the Registrar General sees to it that the processes are complied with, and the GFA will be removed from the list of companies.
So which law is the presidency acting under?
So the president is acting in accordance with corporate governance rules, the rules of company law, that a company that is limited by guarantee, you cannot just, the president or the government cannot just determine that it has been dissolved. It is a company limited by guarantee according to the Companies Act, Act 179. And therefore, the procedure for dissolving such a company is laid down there in the Act, and the president or the government is complying with due procedure.
So should we go to bed thinking that there is no GFA as we know it, or we should continue to know that there's GFA until further notice?
Well, I think the GFA as we know it is going away. It's being dissolved. That's what we should go to bed in mind.
Do we have an idea as to how long this going away would take?
Well, I think it is a matter that should be immediate, and I don't see that it should go beyond the next couple of days.
All right, I have seen an information somewhere else, and I cannot authenticate same, but the Minister for Sports is quoted as saying everything football in this country, women football, every football whatsoever, is essentially scrapped until further notice. Is there any truth in this?
Well, what it means is that all the structures, all the structures that come under the GFA, once the GFA is dissolved finally, all of them go away until further notice. And so once the process is completed, the various bodies that operate under the umbrella authority of the GFA would have to hibernate until such a time when the proper steps are taken to have a new functioning Ghana Football Association.
For persons who fear that there may be a ban or Ghana may suffer a ban as a result, can you give an assurance that you have had conversation with FIFA and CAF and that this decision by government would not affect, the relationship Ghana has with FIFA?
Well, it is our hope that this decision would not get to that stage. The Minister of Youth and Sports has instruction to begin that dialogue and that communication. But we must understand that these rules were not made and could not have been made to protect or condone corruption. FIFA and the bigger umbrella bodies understand that the rules were not made to allow officials of the game to engage in criminal actions, in a sovereign country like Ghana, a law-abiding country like Ghana.
Okay.
We have demonstrated as a government that we are committed to that independence of the body, and we will not interfere with the administration of the GFA. But we are interested very much in protecting the laws of Ghana.
Very well.
We will do everything to ensure that the laws of Ghana are obeyed within the ambit of the rules of football administration.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Herbert Krapper, the government spokesperson on governance and legal affairs. Kwabena Agyepong.
Well, first and foremost, these are exceptional circumstances. And Ghana is a sovereign country. And I have been someone who has been against the attempt by FIFA to impose itself on the world as if it's some supreme body which has no mandate from anyone. I keep repeating, that federation is a federation of football associations, simply put.
So this attempt by government to take over football is in right order, in your estimation?
I think they have to have good consultations across board. As I said, football has a lot of stakeholders. The clubs, right from juvenile up to the top. And I think the spokesman, he said something to that effect. And then there is a Congress right now. And those who make up the Congresses, the regional football associations and all that. Some dialogue should start immediately because I think they themselves should recognize that the current position is untenable. It's embarrassing. And they should feel it as a sense of duty to repair the image of our country. But my worry is this thing about GFA being registered by, Company by guarantee. I mean, how did that happen? I've been out of football for a while. I don't know. I can't trace everything. But what I can say for a fact is that Ghana Football Association should be one of the sporting associations under the National Sports Council. Again, you showed me something. I don't know what the new act is or whether some changes have been made. But just simply put, in those days, football was like Ghana Boxing Authority, Ghana Amateur Boxing Association, Golf Association, and it was all under the National Sports Council.
So we have a sports commission now. So is it an act? We have an act on National Sports Commission.
I haven't gone through it, so I don't know the relations. This 2016, the relations it has with the with the various. But I would think that football is part of corporate Ghana, and the attempt to isolate it from Ghana in that way, I don't quite subscribe to, and I don't understand.
But there are so many people in the football system who are benefiting from this current state of affairs, who are going to resist this. You think that the government is going to succeed with this campaign?
Well, they don't own the football. I think government should open a dialogue.
Government doesn't own a single player.
Say it again?
Governments of Ghana doesn't
Those
own a
people
single
who are
player.
talking like that don't own any players. They don't. And in fact, it is wrong. It's only in Ghana that you have members of the FA owning football clubs and running football at the same time. It's not done anywhere in the world. It's against good corporate governance. If you are the head of the FA and you also have interest in your club becoming champion, I mean, what are the referees supposed to do?
Interest.
So, I mean, these are things that should never have happened. And some of us have spoken against it. And that's the reason why the local league is destroyed. There's so much concentration on the national football team, and you cobble together players from Europe to the detriment of the local scene, and then once you can put them together, go and play matches. Look, as I said, I've served through various administrations I was member of International Relations Committee under Joe Latte, late Joe Latte. When he was FHM, under Uanyamiche, I served as member of the Black Stylist Management Committee, then with the late Kojo Kwashi as the chair. I've served with Oheniba Charles. In 1992, we took the Black Meteors to the Olympic Games. In those days, people were dedicated to their jobs. I don't quite even remember any of those travels that we did not travel with our own money. You know, but things have changed significantly. And when now that more resources have come into football, this is a time that football clubs are starved. Perhaps you should go down and ask some of the clubs how much money they pay a football player in a professional league in Ghana per month. Some are getting as little as 800. You know, and meanwhile we go to the World Cup, and of course everybody knows just going on the net that you get about 10 million for qualifying for the World Cup. And where does that money go? A percentage of it should be dedicated to the football teams that work and produce the dividend that we use as our national team players. So for me, I think it's little advice. Those in football who have arrogated to themselves the power that they own football, they did not start football in this country. A lot of those who are parading around now, when we were involved in football, were nowhere near it. I mean, the likes of Enchu Jemfi, who was the first National Juvenile Committee chairman, Ladanso Ado, those started the Starlets in the 80s with the first tournament in Scotland in 1989. That culminated in our winning the 1991 tournament in Spain. And it all built up to 2006. I think all football-loving people should have a look at ourselves and ask whether the route we've taken the last 13 or so years is the best route for us.
Kwabena, we have to go, but of course, the discussion we are having now is hinged on analysis number 12. And curious enough, football wasn't the only thing there. There was actually political governance as well. And you've been spokesperson for a president for 6 years. I will not just let you come into my studio and go without talking to me about the politicians who have been implicated in one way or the other after having watched that. How should the government be handling this? What should we be expecting? What should we see?
Frankly, I don't want to comment a lot on. That's why I say I didn't even want to comment on the personalities involved in the football part. I want to look at it. It is the dividends that we have achieved because of the architecture we put in place, the infrastructure we put in place to govern football. And I think that is where the flaw is. We should look at it. On the political side, I think all Ghanaians, there has to be a reorientation of our attitude towards the country. The national interest has to be pervasive in whatever we do. And sometimes it's not only about politics or sports or, you know, our fabric, our social fabric has been so destroyed. I mean, these days I look at some of the television stations and the priests who are supposed to preach to us, the way they conduct themselves. I begin to wonder whether the National Media Commission is even in existence and why television channels can allow such stuff be propagated on their stations.
Kwabena has nicely, you know, dodged my question.
No,
let me throw one more question before you go, and we have to make way for sister. But your future political career, many people are sending me messages on social media since we advertise. They want to know what you're up to. Are you coming back to the NPP?
Well, they shouldn't worry. I have always loved my country. I'm serving my profession as the executive director. I'm very happy where I am. I get to meet my colleagues, and we are trying to regulate quality engineering practice in our country. Everybody is a politician. Everybody should be interested in the politics. And I don't believe that good people should leave politics. Otherwise, it will be populated by those who don't have the nation's interest at heart.
So there you have it. He's still in politics. Kwabena Agyepong, thank you for being my guest on Point Blank.
It's a pleasure.
We have to go now. I am Omar Rusanda Amadou. Was here with me now, W. Up next is Sister, and tonight on Sister, surprise guest, not surprising, but big guest, Sister Debbie is on. Stay with us, watch it on City TV and listen on 97.3 City FM.